It's okay. I didn't quite catch the end of that. You said, I love you.
Maggie.
When 18-year-old John Foster stepped onto the American Idol stage, there was no flashy costume, no dramatic backstory played on screen, just a young man in a cowboy hat, carrying a cooler full of food, and a quiet sincerity that felt almost out of place in the glitter of Hollywood. But what happened next stunned everyone. The moment he began to sing, the entire room shifted. Luke Bryan, initially unconvinced, changed his mind before Foster even finished. And when Foster sang his original song, Tell That Angel I Love Her, tears filled the judge's eyes. What America didn't know in that moment was that behind that aching voice was a story soaked in tragedy, resilience, and a dream that goes far beyond music. From the shadow of devastating loss to the spotlight of national television, John Foster didn't just audition for a music competition. He opened a wound that never truly healed. And what he did next would make headlines, ignite rumors, and inspire a movement of faith, music, and healing. Before the nation knew his name, John Foster was just another teenager growing up in the quiet town of Addis, Louisiana, a small community nestled along the Mississippi River, far removed from the glitz of the music industry. Born into a hard-working family that owned a local butcher shop, John's early life revolved around simple values: faith, community, and perseverance. His days were filled with school, helping at the shop, and tinkering with science experiments, not dreams of stardom. In fact, Foster was known more for his academic ambition than any musical talent. A self-described science geek, he spent hours studying biology, planning a future in medicine rather than on stage. But even in those early years, something stirred quietly in the background. At 15, with no formal lessons, John taught himself to play the guitar. Just a few chords at first, inspired by the raw emotional honesty of country legends like George Strait, Merle Haggard, and Conway Twitty. Music wasn't a career plan, it was a comfort, a side note in the margins of a life that seemed destined for the lab coat, not the spotlight. He occasionally played for friends, never thinking it would take him any further. Yet even then, those who heard him sing sensed something rare, an old soul, a voice shaped by experience rather than ego. What note? On the night of December 31st, 2022, the town of Addis was shattered by a tragedy that would ripple through the entire community and forever change John Foster's life. A high-speed police chase ended in catastrophe when an officer ran a red light and collided with a car carrying 3 local teenagers. 2 of them, Maggie Dunn and Caroline Gill, both vibrant high school cheerleaders, were killed on impact. The third, Maggie's younger brother Liam, survived but with serious injuries. For most, it was a devastating headline. For John, it was the moment his world collapsed. Maggie wasn't just a classmate, she was like family. The two had grown up side by side, sharing school hallways, community events, and late-night conversations. Maggie was one of the few people who saw something deeper in John's quiet strumming and soft vocals. She once wrote him a letter urging him to pursue music, insisting that his voice could move people in ways he didn't yet understand. After the crash, John turned to music not out of ambition, but desperation. Grief consumed him, and the guitar became his only form of survival. What started as therapy slowly evolved into testimony. Alone in his room, he began to write. The words didn't come from inspiration, they came from pain. And from that pain, he crafted Tell That Angel I Love Her, a song not meant for fame, but for Maggie. In those lyrics, John poured out everything he couldn't say out loud: his sorrow, his guilt, his love. It was never written for the stage. It was a message to the heavens, but fate had other plans. That raw, grieving voice would soon echo across the nation. It was during American Idol's Songs of Faith episode that John Foster delivered the performance that would define not just his run on the show, but his legacy as an artist. With the stage bathed in soft light and the audience hushed in anticipation, John stepped forward. No backup singers, no flashy visuals, just his guitar and a song that came straight from the deepest wound in his heart. Tell That Angel I Love Her, an original piece he wrote in the wake of Maggie Dunn's tragic passing, was not designed for entertainment. It was a prayer, a goodbye, and a cry for healing all in one. As the first words left his mouth, the mood in the room changed. It wasn't just somber, it was sacred. His voice trembled under the weight of real grief. Midway through, his hands shook, his eyes welled, and his pain became palpable. The song wasn't polished, but it didn't need to be. It was raw, vulnerable, and real. Carrie Underwood's expression turned to quiet sorrow, visibly moved by the haunting purity of the performance. Lionel Richie wiped his eyes, whispering to fellow judges that this was the kind of soul music that transcends genre or generation. And Luke Bryan, who once hesitated to say yes to John, was now one of his fiercest supporters, calling the performance gut-wrenching and beautiful. Viewers across the country flooded social media, sharing the clip with captions like, "I've never cried watching Idol until now." But for John, this wasn't about going viral. This was about keeping a promise to Maggie, about making sure her belief in him echoed louder than any applause. That night, American Idol witnessed something more than a performance. It witnessed a grieving heart finding peace through song. While America was falling in love with John Foster's voice, few realized that behind the cowboy hat and tear-soaked lyrics was a young man with another dream, one rooted not in stardom, but in science, service, and silent determination. Long before American Idol, John wasn't rehearsing sets or chasing gigs. He was immersed in textbooks, excelling in advanced biology courses, and preparing for a future in medicine. As the valedictorian of Brusley High School's class of 2024, he earned a place at Louisiana State University, majoring in biological sciences with one goal in mind: to become an oncologist. This wasn't a fallback plan, it was his mission. Growing up in southern Louisiana, John saw firsthand how cancer ravaged his community. His town sits within what's known as Cancer Alley, a stretch of the Mississippi River where industrial pollution has led to alarmingly high cancer rates. For John, this crisis wasn't abstract. It was personal. He witnessed neighbors suffer, families break, and futures disappear. Rather than retreat into hopelessness, John decided he wanted to be part of the solution. He dreamed of healing not just through compassion, but through clinical excellence. In interviews, John once explained, "God heals spiritually, but he gave us the tools to heal physically too. I want to be one of those people." This deep conviction never left him, even as music crept further into his life. And it's what birthed his most unlikely aspiration: to become a singing oncologist, a doctor who uses both a stethoscope and a microphone to heal people, mind, body, and soul. For John Foster, medicine and music aren't opposites. They're parallel paths toward the same goal: easing human suffering. In a world where most chase fame for the spotlight, John chases meaning. Whether it's in a hospital room or on a national stage, his calling is the same: to help people feel seen, heard, and above all, not alone. As John Foster's voice reached millions and his story gained traction nationwide, a darker side of fame began to surface, one all too familiar in the age of viral success. Online chatter, once filled with praise and support, soon gave way to whispers of doubt, suspicion, and scandal. Rumors began spreading across forums, comment sections, and even fan pages questioning the authenticity of John's background. Some claimed he wasn't really 18 years old, but rather 24, suggesting he had lied about his age to qualify for the competition. Others alleged he wasn't even from Addis, Louisiana, as he had repeatedly said, but from a completely different town in Kentucky. The most bizarre speculation tied him to country music legend Dwight Yoakam, insisting that John was either a distant relative or had quietly signed a record deal with Sugar Hill Records long before his Idol audition. The conspiracy theories spread quickly, painting him not as a humble small-town singer, but as a well-connected insider gaming the system. For a young man still grieving, still grounded in his values, these falsehoods cut deep. But John didn't react with outrage or theatrics. Instead, he took to his personal Facebook page with calm clarity. In a heartfelt post, he addressed each rumor directly, confirming he was indeed 18, born and raised in Addis, and entirely independent with no professional ties to the industry. He categorically denied any relation to Dwight Yoakam and made it clear he had never been signed to any label, let alone Sugar Hill Records. His message was honest, humble, and unfiltered, much like his music. And fans noticed. The comments section was flooded with messages of support, many thanking him for his transparency and applauding the maturity with which he handled the storm. In an era where public figures often fight fire with fire, John Foster responded with grace. The rumors, meant to derail him, only reinforced what his supporters already believed, that John's truth was louder than any lie. In the face of mounting rumors and growing speculation, many rising stars might have lashed out, gone silent, or let the noise consume their narrative. But John Foster's response was a masterclass in composure. Instead of spiraling or retreating, he addressed the controversy with the same sincerity that made America fall in love with him in the first place. His Facebook post wasn't calculated PR. It was a simple, genuine statement of truth. He spoke not just to his fans, but to anyone who had ever been doubted or misrepresented. Rather than fueling the drama, John deconstructed it with facts and vulnerability. He reaffirmed his identity, a teenager from Addis, Louisiana, the son of hardworking parents, and a self-taught musician with no hidden industry connections. His calm tone disarmed critics and reassured supporters. But what stood out most wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. There was no anger, no victimhood, just quiet strength. The way he handled the misinformation became a defining moment in his idol journey. Fans who were once casual viewers became fierce defenders, rallying behind the young artist whose integrity shone brighter than the stage lights. Comment sections transformed from battlegrounds into communities of support. Messages poured in from teachers, neighbors, and childhood friends, all echoing the same sentiment: that's the John we know. In a world obsessed with image, John proved that authenticity still matters. By refusing to let gossip dictate his story, he reminded America that character isn't shown when everything is going right. It's revealed when everything is under attack. And in those crucial days, John Foster didn't just protect his reputation, he earned a deeper kind of respect, the kind that turns audiences into believers. As John Foster advanced through the rounds of American Idol, fame came fast, and so did the expectations. Television appearances, viral clips, trending hashtags. His life transformed almost overnight. But unlike many contestants swept up in the lights and adulation, John remained surprisingly unchanged. While others leaned into stylists, branding teams, and high-profile endorsements, John stayed tethered to who he was. A small-town boy with a guitar, a purpose, and a memory too painful to forget. At the heart of that grounding was Brooklyn Bork, his high school sweetheart and quiet source of strength. While America saw a rising star, she saw the same John who once played guitar on his porch, unsure of his talent, but filled with quiet conviction. Their relationship, far from a publicity stunt, reminded viewers that his story wasn't a product. It was a journey still unfolding. Behind the scenes, John resisted the pressure to reshape his identity to fit the industry's mold. Producers encouraged him to lean into the heartthrob image or to dramatize his grief for the camera, but John declined. He didn't want Maggie's story, or his own, to become a reality TV prop. His music remained personal, his interviews measured, and his performances honest. There was no act, no agenda, just intention, and that refusal to play the fame game made him stand out in a show often criticized for prioritizing spectacle over substance. It also made him polarizing to some. In a competition where big voices and even bigger personalities dominate, John's quiet authenticity was almost a rebellion. But for every critic who called him boring or too simple, there were thousands more who saw a rare kind of courage, the courage to remain unchanged in a world built to change you. Through it all, John Foster proved that being true to yourself might not always be the easiest path, but it's the one that echoes long after the cameras stop rolling. As the American Idol finale approached, the question looming over millions of viewers was no longer, who is John Foster? It was, can he actually win this thing? By now, John had become more than just a contestant. He was a symbol of authenticity in a competition often driven by theatrics. In the final weeks, while other singers reached for vocal acrobatics and show-stopping performances, John doubled down on what made him unforgettable: restraint, raw emotion, and soul. With each round, he built momentum, not just through votes, but through hearts won over by his integrity and purpose. His performances weren't the loudest, but they were the ones people remembered. Fans described him as the healer, the truth teller, the one who sings what others are too afraid to say. Social media was ablaze with grassroots campaigns, pushing hashtag Team John Foster to the top. TikTok edits of his emotional audition reached millions. Twitter users called him the future of country soul. And across small towns in Louisiana and beyond, people hosted viewing parties not just to cheer him on, but because they saw themselves in him. Yet even with that momentum, John never acted entitled to the trophy. In interviews, he spoke of gratitude, of honoring Maggie's memory, of finishing his degree in biology. While others discussed record deals, John talked about rotations in hospitals and using his platform to advocate for cancer awareness. His humility became his signature. Idol producers recognized the unique space he filled. A contestant who wasn't just chasing a title, but carrying a purpose. Judges consistently praised his growth, with Lionel Richie calling him one of the most important voices in Idol's history. As voting opened for the final time, the outcome remained uncertain. But one thing was clear: John Foster had already defied every expectation. And win or lose, he had proven that sometimes the quietest voices leave the loudest impact. By the time the final results were announced, the American Idol stage had become more than just a platform for John Foster. It had become a pulpit, a diary, and a healing space for millions. And though the trophy was still up for grabs, something far more powerful had already been secured: John's impact on the lives of those who heard his story, and more importantly, those who felt it. Messages poured in from grieving parents, cancer patients, teenagers struggling with loss, and even doctors who found themselves inspired by his dual dream: to sing and to heal. John's journey had transcended entertainment. He reminded people that purpose doesn't have to come with perfection, that it's possible to carry pain and still shine through it. His performances were replayed not just for their musicality, but for the comfort they offered, a strange, beautiful form of emotional medicine. And while producers scrambled to capitalize on his popularity, John kept his eyes on the horizon. He spoke openly about finishing his biology degree at LSU, about working in oncology clinics, and yes, continuing to write songs, not because the world demanded it, but because his soul did. In a rare moment of clarity on national television, he said, "Music gave me the words when I couldn't speak. Medicine gives me the tools when I can't sing. I don't want to choose between them. I want to bring them together." That vision, a singing oncologist who treats both the body and the soul, is no longer just a dream. It's a future in motion. And for the millions who saw him not as a contestant, but as a symbol of what it means to grieve and grow, John Foster will be remembered long after the lights fade. In a world hungry for realness, he showed up with nothing but his truth. And that was more than enough. In an era where viral moments vanish overnight, and fame is often hollow, John Foster reminded America that the most powerful voices aren't always the loudest. They're the ones that carry truth, pain, and purpose. From a butcher shop in Addis to the American Idol finale, John's journey wasn't about chasing applause. It was about honoring a promise, healing through heartbreak, and daring to believe that music and medicine could coexist. Whether he walks away with the trophy or not, John Foster has already won something far greater: the respect of a nation, the love of a grieving community, and the hearts of millions who found hope in his voice. His story is a testament to the fact that even in the darkest moments, purpose can emerge. And when that purpose is met with humility, honesty, and heart, it becomes unstoppable. So if you felt something today, if John's story moved you, made you think, or reminded you of someone you've lost, don't let it stop here. Hit that like button, subscribe for more stories that matter, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because this isn't just a story about a contestant. It's a story about what it means to live with meaning and to keep going, even when your heart is broken. John Foster sang through the silence. Now it's our turn to listen.